Welcome into episode 16 of season 2 of the Inside the Dam podcast, featuring student athletes from Minot State University. Today's episode features two softball players, Brooklyn Morrison and Hannah Murray, and also track and field thrower Samuel Kreins. I'm Owen Patterson. I'll be joined by Dalton Davis, my co-host, later on. But first, a quick thank you to Papa John's, our sponsor of the Inside the Dam podcast. They're proud to sponsor the Inside the Dam podcast. Hit them up on their website and search for any deals they may have going on. Search Papa John's in Minot or call them at 701-852-7272. That's 852-PAPA to place an order over the phone. My first guest today, Brooklyn Morrison, shortstop for the Minot State softball team. Thank you for joining us today, Brooklyn.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, off to start this season this spring. The non-conference schedule is behind you now. A couple big wins early on, some tough competition down in Kansas. How would you describe how the first month of the season has gone?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, a couple big wins, really helped us going towards those off-season games. I think even the losses that we had were almost even kind of wins in our eyes because it really just showed us stuff that we need to work on moving forward, things like that, stuff that we can work on in practice, and just things that we can kind of clean up before we get into our conference games. So I think that was a really big thing for us, especially in the off season. It's kind of used to just like work out the kinks and kind of get used to playing with each other again coming back. So I think it was a really good off season, the ups and downs, but all in all really positive for sure.
For you in particular, coming off a big year last season, already off to a good start this year on a 6-game hitting streak here, heading into the series in Sioux Falls coming up. As a fourth-year player as well, starting shortstop, you've probably got a big leadership responsibility on the field and off the field, even with the new coaching staff as well coming in. Just describe your role in the dugout as a fourth-year starting shortstop for the team.
Yeah, especially with our team, we're very big on, leadership top to bottom, seniors through freshmen, everybody. So I think being a fourth-year senior, really helps just with that experience with the conference, experience with the girls, all that kind of stuff. But I think all in all, our team really leans on everybody, not just seniors. So obviously bringing the energy as much as I can, even if I'm on the field. If I'm not on the field, cheering on my teammates as much as I can, being their biggest cheerleaders, biggest supporters. So that's really kind of my goal, obviously being, a leader on the field, but also really having my teammates' backs. And I know that my teammates always have my back, which is a really big thing with our team too, really picking each other up and kind of keeping the energy top to bottom, leadership top to bottom for sure.
Talking about your softball story, where did your love for the game start?
I've played since I was a little kid. Everybody in my family played, my mom, my dad, and my brother. So even since I was little, I was always at the field, always watching at least like somebody in my family. So that was kind of where like my love for the game kind of came from. I was just, like I said, always at the field, always watching somebody. And so it was always kind of a goal that, I want to be like my mom, I want to be like my dad, be like my brother, things like that. So, and then I think just from there, just growing the relationships I've built, friendships, everything just really keeps me in the game. And being able to, obviously take the sport somewhere where I can, kind of travel around the country, things like that. That's been really big. But ever since I was a kid, it's always just been a really big part of my life. So, yeah, kind of just right from the beginning of my story. It was all just from when I was little.
So when does collegiate softball come into the picture, and what made your decision to come here to Minot, North Dakota?
So when I came here to Minot, I came for a visit my senior year of high school, and just right away, I knew the girls were amazing. It was like a family, and I wasn't even on the team yet. They kind of treated me like I was one of them, and the campus, I loved the campus and all that, but really the relationships with the girls were kind of what really drove me, and just seeing how close they were and the culture that they had as a team was a really big thing for me, and just kind of seeing this is what I wanted my next 4 years to look like after high school.
Academics-wise, what are you majoring in here at MSU?
I'm a nursing major.
And how's that going so far?
It's going really good. I love it. Every single day is a new day. With nursing, it's different every single day. I do different things, see different people, see different patients, all that kind of stuff. But I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Combining the two, what's one thing you've learned from softball that you use in the classroom, and one thing you've learned in the classroom that you use on the diamond?
Oh, that's a good question. I would definitely say softball-wise, the past couple years have been really, my goals have been really to be kind of process over outcome, being able to figure out if my process is good, then the outcomes are going to follow. So it kind of follows in the classroom, with studying. If I have a good studying process, then my tests will go well, kind of things like that. If I really hone in on my skills in the lab, then I'll do good when I'm kind of in, live hands-on scenarios. But in the other way, I think something from the classroom that has taken me to the field is just kind of really being persistent, being in a hard major, you always have to kind of keep pushing forward. There might be bad tests, bad grades, things like that, but really just kind of being persistent and knowing that my end goal is kind of what I'm moving towards, and that's kind of my light at the end of the tunnel, is just kind of seeing, you know, once I graduate, this is what my life is going to look like, and being able to kind of follow those steps to meet my goals.
You guys are entering conference play coming up, going to Sioux Falls and Wayne, Nebraska. Some big weekend road trips. I know that's nothing new as a collegiate softball player, but what's the fun part of a road trip with your team?
I think some of my favorite parts are definitely like bus rides. We have a lot of fun on the bus. We bring our team like speaker on the bus and kind of blast some music. We do, you know, all sorts of games. We'll bring like card games on the bus, all that kind of stuff. But I think that's just a really good place for our team bonding and stuff, you know, and we kind of sit by everybody and be able to just like hang out. Our energy can be electric, and it's just so much fun to be around the girls and just have that time where we are kind of all together and be able to spend that time together for sure.
Talk about switching, because you stayed in the program through a new coaching change this year. What's that transition kind of been like?
You know, I think, like I said, with the girls, like we have a very close team, and so I think obviously the coaching changes has kind of affected us a little bit just in general, just kind of being under different voices. But I think all in all, our team is very big on, you know, coaching each other and things like that. So our coaches have been awesome, and, you know, we've really been adapting to each voice that we've kind of had coming in as different coaches since I've been here. But I think it also kind of goes back to being able to lean on each other as well and just be able to focus on the people that I play my position with. I can help them and things like that. And so we really kind of lean on each other as much as we lean on the coaches for sure.
You've been in Minot now for a while. What's the go-to spot to hang out?
I don't know. I love just being outside. I think that is like a huge thing, especially when the weather permits it. I think once it's warm out, you know, just going like for bike rides around the town, or even like sometimes me and my roommates will go and sit down on like the Spice Pipe patio and just like do homework and things like that. And so just being able to be outside is my big thing. I think that's a huge, just like when the weather's nice, get fresh air, go for a bike ride, do all that kind of stuff.
What's the goal let's just start with the rest of the softball season. What's the goal for the end result for Minot State this season?
You know, I think every year we are always kind of pushing for that conference championship. I think that's a goal, you know, for every team, every single year. But I think, especially with us this year, I really want, you know, kind of just like being consistent, I think is a huge thing. You know, like if we're consistent offensively and defensively, good things will happen just because we have such a talented team and so much depth within our team. So I think being able to lean on each other and just kind of stay consistent throughout the whole year and just really be confident in our talent, because I think our talent can take us a long way.
And like, what's kind of your plan for the future past softball and past Minot State University? Have you thought that far?
Sometimes. I mean, I kind of just take every day as it comes, but I think in general, you know, obviously graduating with my nursing degree, I think that's a really big thing to try and kind of get in the workforce as soon as I can, just because, like I said, I love what I do and I love, you know, that part of my life. And so I think that is going to be, you know, once I'm done with softball and all that kind of stuff, graduated, that'll be a really big thing starting to work. But other than that, I haven't really thought much about it.
One final question for you. Is there a favorite moment you've had in all your years of playing softball? What's like that number one moment that I go to and I'm like, yeah, like that's number one all time?
There's so many. I think, you know, as a team, I think one really big thing, you know, last year, coming off a win against Bemidji in the conference tournament, it was got us into the second day of the conference tournament. I think just as a team, that was just like an amazing moment, just being able to experience that and just kind of obviously do things that we don't like normally get that far and things like that. And so I think just being with the girls in that moment, the energy and the confidence and just the love that we had for each other was just out of the roof. Yeah.
Well, Brooklyn, thank you for joining us and best of luck this softball season.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll have Hannah Murray coming up next in the Inside the Dam podcast here on KMSU.
Welcome back to the Inside the Dam podcast. I am Dalton Davis, subbing in for Owen Patterson for this interview here. We are joined with Hannah Murray, another softball player from Minot State's team, a third-year junior, third baseman. Hannah, how are we doing today?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
This is all credit to Cole Clementich over there. But, yeah, let's get started. Just where are you from? How'd you get to Minot, I guess? And we'll start from the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm from Red Deer, Alberta. That's up in Canada. I graduated from St. Joseph High School in 2020. So I actually took a gap year before I came down to Minot. And I was playing at the softball academy at my high school. And the coach from 2 years ago now, so Coach Nat Wagner, he came down and watched a showcase that we put on. And he liked what he saw. And here I am. So it was a really good decision to come here, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
Cool. Was there a reason for your gap year? Or...
Yeah, there was a couple things going on. I actually decided really late in my high school career that I wanted to play softball in college, and I was a little bit behind the curve, and there was also COVID going on. So there was a lot of reasons that I wasn't quite ready for college softball yet. So I took the year off to work and get better at softball, and I joined the 2021 class. So I think that was a really good decision for me, and I've kind of benefited from that, I think.
Yeah. Was it harder to get recruited that year that you took the gap year?
It was actually kind of one of those things where it kind of just fell into my lap. He came up to watch the showcase, and he offered me a spot actually in the 2020 class. And then as we kind of continued corresponding, it decided that it would be better for 2021. So there was some hindrances. Like, I never got to take a visit down here. So the first time I came to Minot, I was on campus, was when I was there in August as a freshman. So I never got to do a tour or anything, and I wasn't able to go look at any other schools because the borders were closed and all that. So it was a bit of a leap of faith, but I think that it turned out really well, and I'm really happy with my decision.
That's good. That's the most important part. Speaking of your first coach, you've had 3 different coaches in 3 years. How has that experience been for you?
You know, it's not been easy. You know, each year it kind of feels like it's freshman year again. Like, you have to prove yourself over and over again. So like the first year, Coach Nat, then Coach B, now Coach Sal. Overall, I think that this year has been really great. I really love Coach Sal, and I think our team is doing great under his coaching. But every year having a different coach, it is kind of like learning something new every year, and learning to adapt to each new coaching style. It's definitely been different, but I think that this year it's going good so far. Round 3.
Yeah, that's rough, especially all 3 years that you've been here, 3 different coaches. I also want to ask you about your team chemistry, team activities. Like, how is the chemistry and everything surrounding that outside the field?
I think it's really good. As a team, we mesh really well together. Just this past weekend, we had a St. Patrick's Day potluck. The weekend before, we all were bowling together. And it's really nice because that's pretty much initiated by us. Coaches kind of stay out of it. They kind of just let us do our own thing, which I really appreciate. And I would say that we're best friends on and off the field. And it's good to know that you're playing with people who care about you and want you to get better. And there's not a lot of animosity or anything like that. So being able to work with people who are pushing you in the right direction, we're all pulling the same rope in the right direction. It's really good atmosphere to be a part of. Yeah,
everyone's pushing each other off the field, but on the field as well. I know that you're fighting for a third spot or a third baseman spot right now. As a junior, senior year's coming up, what do you think the future entails for you? I
think that being able to kind of always be in competition for a spot is a really good thing. It really pushes you to stay on top of it. And when you're with your positional partners, it's really nice to know that regardless of what happens, we're each other's biggest cheerleaders, everything. So actually, Brooklyn, who was just on, I played third base with her my first 2 years, and I learned so much from her. It was fantastic to play with someone with so much knowledge and skill, and now I have a chance to go and do that for myself and help my teammates as well. So we have a really good culture on the team of helping each other and always looking to help your positional partners and everyone else on the team improve. So I think that dynamic on the team is definitely very helpful and really positive experience.
Cool. One more, I guess we got into, I want to look into your more school-wise. What are you majoring in?
I'm majoring in chemistry.
Chemistry. Yes. So how do you balance the I know we were talking earlier about your school and your softball and your working. How are you able to balance all three of those at the same time?
Well, it's kind of a juggling act, more or less balancing, more juggling. But it's I'm definitely busy a lot. I really try to stay on top of things. I used to be a procrastinator in high school. I'm not a procrastinator anymore because I don't have time to procrastinate. So definitely just learning to manage my time properly. I also, as you mentioned, I work in the chemistry lab and I was a tutor last semester. So I've got a whole lot of things going on, but so far so good. I'm making it work.
Staying busy. You're involved in a lot of things. How would you just overall just rate your Minot State experience so far?
I have loved it so far. I have had lots of opportunities. This is a smaller school, so the opportunities that I get, I know I probably wouldn't get them at bigger schools. Just being able to do like research and apply for internships or talk to the faculty and the softball program's been great. Like the atmosphere, everything about Minot State. I know it was a bit of a shot in the dark coming here, but I definitely don't regret it, and it's been fantastic.
Great. Well, other than that, anything you want to add to this?
No.
Anything you're looking forward to? Anything anybody you want to shout out?
I guess I should shout out my family back home, mom and dad and my brother Matthew. They're going to be coming up for our first home weekend, so I'm excited to see them. So that's not this weekend, but the following weekend they'll be here. So I'm excited to get to play in front of them. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Have you been able to play in front of them?
Yeah, they've come up in years previous.
Yep.
So they come up about once a year. So it's always good to see them.
You hoping to play in the bubble, or are you hoping to play on a real field on next weekend?
Well, if the weather is not nice, I like to play in the bubble because, the wind and stuff, and it can be kind of cold. And we practice in the bubble, and we're really used to it. It's a little bit different than playing outside. It was a bit of an adjustment coming here in the beginning, learning to like read the foul balls off the bubble, but the nice thing is there's no wind, so
yeah.
I would definitely prefer to stay inside. But we also have a really great facility over at South Hill, so if the weather cooperates, it's good to play over there too.
Either one?
Yeah, either one.
All right. Well, other than that, I think we're going to wrap up this segment part. Thank you for joining us, Hannah. Good luck for you in the rest of the season and next season. And a quick shout out to Papa John's for sponsoring this episode. And we'll be right back, coming back with a track and field. It's going to be Owen back interviewing Sam Kreins, I believe is his name. And we'll be right back.
And we welcome you back to the Inside the Dam podcast here on the campus of Minot State University. Our third and final guest today comes from the men's track and field team. It's Sam Kreins. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. All right, well, you just come off a big-time meet out in Montana at Rocky Mountain University. I know that went pretty well for you. How would you describe it in your own words?
I think it was a great opener. I think overall as a team, we had like 9 event wins. I think most everybody that went out either got really close to a personal record or accomplished a personal record. Personally, I got a personal record in both of my events, being the hammer and the shot put. So that was pretty nice being able to open up, especially since I didn't compete in the previous outdoor season because of a high ankle sprain that I had. So after not competing in my primary event, which is the hammer, since 2022, being able to come out there and kind of get a little bit of a confidence booster, that was nice.
Yeah, first meet of the year, you pick up 2 competition wins. How much does that set you up for a hopefully successful season throughout the rest of the year, just picking up wins right away?
So I think that track and field is kind of one of those sports where it's really interesting, where you look at the wins and losses in almost every other sport. You get to the end and it's like, how many wins did you get? How many losses did you get? But we're all focused on the number we got. So picking up wins, it's definitely a big confidence booster, but I definitely think that as far as how that sets us up for the rest of the season, it's more about just the fact that we went out there and we all really competed at our best. As far as getting a dub, it's always nice to get out there and win. It's always nice to be able to go out there and get a competition in, because that's really how it is with like when you get to the end of the season, when we get to Mankato in May for our conference championship. Yes, the numbers matter, but people really care about where you ended up on that ranking list more than where that number came through. So as far as confidence, being able to get out there and experience competing for that top spot, it's more or less just a practice for conference in a couple months. But yeah, getting dubs always nice.
Yeah, so what's a daily routine for a track and field thrower like yourself to go out and get that conference championship in the end?
I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to consistency and not necessarily requiring immediate gratification on certain things. You go into the gym every single day and you do the same thing. You look at yourself in the mirror, no results. You go back out the next day, go to the gym, go to practice, look at yourself in the mirror, no results. It's kind of the same thing with when you're throwing. You're going to have days where, like, yes, a technical thing clicked, but a lot of that also is going in and being okay with just like the small victories of like, okay, I did a little bit better on this today, did a little bit better on that today, but not necessarily going out and grabbing for every single day. I'm going to be disappointed if I don't get that giant leap in something. You just need to go in there and be consistent, trust the process, know that your coaches have your back, know that the process that you have set up and the plan that you have set up of the 11 weeks that we have between indoor conference championships and outdoor conference championships, that you and your coaches have properly set yourself up, and regardless of what you're seeing at practice every single day, that at the end of the day, it's going to figure itself out, and you just need to be consistent with it.
What, for you specifically, drives you to be better every single day? Is there a certain thing that kind of makes you go, all right, today I'm going to get 1% better?
Oh, man, that's one heck of a question. I think that at the end of the day, I've worked so hard so far up to this point that I kind of owe it to myself to see how far I can push myself. I've been in this sport since middle school. And so going up until this point, getting towards the end of my collegiate career, as far as getting up and seeing where I could end up, I just know that, I've got years and years behind me of versions of myself that'd be pretty disappointed in myself if I got to this point and didn't go out there and just, even if it's just that half percentage, getting a little bit better. You add all that up and it's just it adds up. And yeah, I had more words, but they just floated out of my ear.
So how did you pick up the sport of track and field? You said you started in middle school. What got you into it?
It was really something to kind of get me through the off season of football. I was just kind of like bored, and I was talking to one of my coaches who is also a teacher at the middle school, and just telling him that like I didn't really know what I wanted to be doing between the seasons. I was trying to kind of get out of baseball because I was one of those kids that like just was like, okay, you're doing this little league, then this little league, and it was like I did like 7 years of like baseball, and I was like, I kind of just want a season off of like this. I want to see like if I can grow in some other sports and try to kind of diversify what I have going on. And he suggested to go out for throwing because I was a little bit bigger of a guy then, and he was like, okay, well, you're already a pitcher, so I coach the throws. Do you just want to like come throw this? I was like, yeah, sure, we'll go for it. And then I got into middle school, ended up doing really well. And I think that kind of confidence of doing well at these middle school meets pushed me into wanting to do it in high school. And as I got into high school, you can kind of slowly transition between like, it went from being my off-season thing for football to like my sophomore, junior year, football became my off-season thing for track. It was like my thing that got me stronger so that when I got to track, I was prepared to compete well.
So how did competing at the collegiate level come along? When did that kind of start? When did that ball get rolling in your high school career?
So when I was a freshman in high school, I qualified for finals in the discus my freshman year, and I was kind of surprised by it. This is in league, by the way. Our league championships, I qualified for finals, and I had like already taken my shoes off, and I was out there, and I was like kind of getting ready to go home. And then one of the officials came and yelled at me. He's like, dude, what are you doing? Come on, get your shoes back on. Like, you qualified. Come on. I was like, okay. And so I threw my shoes back on. And when I put my shoes on, they had already ran out of time. But all of a sudden I was thrown with these guys that like I didn't think I had any business getting with. You had guys that were signing with these big D1 colleges. I know specifically one guy, he was like in one of our league championship schools that he had signed with Arizona State that year. So the fact that I was like competing with that guy and then started kind of following his career, I was like, maybe I can do that. Like, that's not a crazy idea that, I was my freshman year in a final with him. So, maybe over the next 3 years I can kind of progress and get to his level and, start competing with some of these big rigs. And, you get into collegiate track and field and it's all about like the D1, NAIA, D2, where are you going to end up? And track, that doesn't matter. We went to Billings and it's like, yeah, there's D2 schools there. But there's also a handful of, NAI schools and Division threes, and when we go down to Vermilion to go to USD, I'm going to be competing against the Summit League kids. So, you get in Division two, and at first, like, you might think, like, that's a little bit disappointing. Maybe you could have gone D1, and then you get here and you're like, yeah, but I beat a lot of these D1 kids. Or, a lot of these NAI kids that I've seen beat a lot of these D2 kids. So, it's kind of a shock at first, but, I think that all kind of just carries over that, you get that kid that was competing against a D1 kid who had signed in high school, and I was obsessed with that D1 thing, and then I got here, and it was like, dude, you're in college. You're here. You're at the show. Doesn't matter who you signed with. You're here. Like, go make it happen.
So you started your collegiate career at Concordia Irvine. How did you end up here at Minot State?
That ended up actually being kind of a funny story that followed me here a little bit. Where I got there, I got recruited by one coach. When I showed up, it wasn't the same coach. He didn't really coach the events I was doing. It was a pretty expensive school, so to get there and to not have the resources and coaching that they had hyped me up and recruited me on was a little bit disappointing. So I was like, you know what, this is kind of expensive to not really be getting the experience that I want. And so I looked at other places, and at the time Tanner Gust was the coach here. I reached out to him. He even told me, he's like, I don't know who this kid is, but sure, I'll give him a chance. And I came here, and it ended up being a really solid choice. A little bit not so expensive, but actually the resources I was able to get for like a quarter of the price it was insane how much more I was receiving.
First impressions of North Dakota were? Actually,
when I got here, it was a shock because I was expecting cold. My mom, this was all during COVID, and so my mom was like freaking out and, trying to make sure that I was set up, and she was already kind of like nervous about me all of a sudden because I'm from Reno, Nevada. So like Concordia, that was like a 7-hour drive, 8-hour drive versus like now she's sending her baby like 25 hours away. And so we were on the internet buying me like North Face jackets and all this other stuff. And then I move in July, and it's like, oh, like it's like 95 degrees and I'm wet. Like it was so humid up here. I was not ready for the humidity when I first got here. And then I was not ready for the cold that first winter. But I think that, as almost every single Midwesterner likes to tell me, it's not bad weather, it's bad clothes. So you just got to prep better.
Or you can blame it on the wind, too.
Yeah. I said that when I was at home for Christmas. My dad was like, that's about the Midwestern thing I think I've ever heard you say.
All right, let's talk about academics here. What's your major here at MSU?
My major's in finance. I've got 2 minors, one in economics and one in applied statistics.
All right, and what made you choose that? Where did that come from?
So when I was at Concordia, I was a kinesiology major. And then I realized I was no good at science. Just biology, it wasn't going to happen for me. Like getting through the prereqs for that program was like, okay. And so then I came here and I did psychology, and I realized that wasn't it neither. And so I actually then just transitioned into being undeclared for a while. Tried out a couple different classes, and then I had 2 professors, one Professor Nagugi, and then one Professor Jerry Stye. Both of them kind of got me into like this economics finance world of, predicting people's behaviors and doing a lot of statistical analysis in terms of like, how people use up their resources and how people are risk averse and all these different things. And just like the science of like studying how people operated with their finances really interested me.
Is there some things you can kind of like combine between what you learn in the track and field side of things to something you've learned in your studies?
I think consistency just runs across the board of like you make a plan and you stick to that plan, and it just comes down to study habits and workout habits. You go to practice, you have to be okay with not getting the instant gratification. You have to be okay with, I'm going to come in and do 2.5 hours of something that really sucks and I don't want to do, but I know if I do it, it'll put me in a better place. And that kind of carries over into what I have in both track and with my grades. So
one final question for you here, Sam. What's the pre-meet playlist for you?
Oh gosh, that's been changing a lot lately. Like it's a solid like 2 weeks complete turnover. It'll be like Morgan Wallen, and then the next meet it might be baby metal, which if you don't know that, it's like Japanese kawaii metal. So yeah, shout out to Steven Schultz, our interim head coach. Yeah, that guy put me on it. So I'm a little embarrassed to say I enjoy that stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm on a podcast saying it now, so I guess I can't be that embarrassed.
Well, the next time you join our podcast, that'll be our topic of discussion, Sam.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
That does it for our Inside the Dam podcast this week. Another big thank you to Papa John's. They can be reached at 701-852-7272 or 852-PAPA to place an order over the phone. A big thanks to Papa John's for sponsoring the podcast. For Dalton Davis and all of our guests today, I'm Owen Patterson. Our producer is Cole Clementich. Thank you for tuning in to the Inside the Dam podcast, episode 16 of Season 2.